Hello, beautiful souls. Namaste. I am in the parking lot of Walmart, and it is hustling and bustling. So I'm probably going to have a lot of little squirrely moments. I do apologize. Like a motorcycle just went by. I don't even know where it went, but I heard it. So, I have not been following the PDiddy stuff so much because I am very curious, and I'm glad that he is on trial and that all the stuff is coming out into the public. But that's a lot of negativity to take in, and I am very sensitive to energy, so I've been very cautious to not go down that rabbit hole just yet. So I've been getting little bits and pieces about what's going on with it. And so what I am aware of is that Cassie, who I believe was his on and off girlfriend for a long time, has been testifying about the quote-unquote freak-offs that went on. And, wow, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Not so much the freak-offs, but we're going to talk about because I feel like the question that a lot of people have when they, okay, sorry, just got a text. The question a lot of people have when they're hearing her testimony is, why did she stay? If she was so uncomfortable and she didn't want to be there doing that stuff, why did she stay? And so I want to speak to that today. There's something called trauma bonding that a lot of people are not aware of what that term is. I do feel more people are aware now, because when people started talking about narcissism more mainstream, they started learning about that term trauma bond. But there are still a lot of people that aren't really familiar with it. So, and PDiddy absolutely is a narcissist, among many other things, probably psychopathic, and I'm sure there will be a whole, curriculum written on him someday in the future, I'm sure. I'm not laughing to laugh, but you know what I mean. Like, that's, yeah. Anyways, so when I was hearing what she was testifying about, my heart was breaking. I mean, the things that this man was putting her through because he had power and control over her. Let that sit for a minute. This was a man who took his masculinity, his masculine energy, which is power and control, and he used that to hurt a woman. Now, he did this to many people, but we're not addressing that in this video. We're just talking about what he put this particular woman through, okay? Because it's a great example for people to understand what I'm going to be talking about. There's no doubt in my mind that there was a period of time in the beginning where he likely was a perfect gentleman, where he swept her off her feet, where he promised her the moon and stars and used his wealth to impress her and tell her she would have a beautiful life and, all these things. And that's the love bombing, okay? That's where the trust is built. And this woman, probably thinking, wow, he's showing me attention. He thinks I'm great. He's got money. I'm going to be taken care of. All the things that a woman needs and desires in a relationship, she was being told that he was going to fulfill that. So that made her feel safe to move forward with him. Okay? When you are not healed, it is very difficult for you to catch red flags in people. It's very difficult, especially with certain kinds of behaviors and patterns They can be more subtle and much harder to catch on to if you are not a healed person. So more than likely, there were red flags everywhere. Her family and friends might have even been trying to warn her, and she was probably ignoring it, probably defending him in the beginning. Excuse me. Once he felt he had her loyalty, that's when he likely started subjecting her to these things, probably a little bit at a time, to not scare her off completely, and eventually to the point where when he realized he had full control and power over her, would subject her to really humiliating things, okay? He was using drugs to get her to comply, so she would have to take these drugs to numb herself out to be able to comply with the things that he was asking her to do. This is her testimony. She said if she didn't have these drugs, she doesn't think she would have even survived a lot of what she was being put through. It would have destroyed her. This woman is probably going to have severe PTSD and going to have to probably go through many years of counseling. It's going to probably take a while for her to completely heal from this, because it went on for so long, and what it does to your feminine energy, to have to reclaim that power back after it's been ripped away from you for so long by a masculine energy. That betrayal, it's not just about a person betraying you. On a fundamental level, what you feel like is happening is the other half of your existence were feminine and masculine energy. So when masculine energies betray us, we feel that on an internal level because it feels like an internal betrayal. And the same goes for masculine energies. When they've been betrayed by feminine energies, they feel that on an internal level as well. Why I talk so much about relationships, why I talk so much about the healing process, is because Diddy is just an example. He's being put on blast because he's rich and famous. But there are a million Diddys out there in the world who are broken, who are misusing their masculine power to hurt women. And there are a million Cassies out there who are being abused and mistreated by masculines. This is why healing is so important, becoming self-aware of your own wounding and traumas, and choosing to love yourself enough to take that accountability and take the actions needed to begin that healing process. For women out there, when our self-worth is non-existent because people took it away from us, many times for us, it starts in childhood. Very, very young. And it's whittled away over time. And some of us get really good at putting a false front on. We'll pretend like we're confident. You know, if you happen to be blessed with good looks, you know, someone might mistake you for really confident. Maybe you wear your makeup really nice and you spend the time to do your hair and you wear nice clothes and you have, you know, all the labeled stuff, the Gucci bags and whatever. I don't know, I'm not into all that stuff. But, you know, what you present to the world may appear that you've got it together and that you're confident, but inside, you're not. Inside, you hurt. Inside, you question every time you have an interaction with someone. Does this person actually respect me? Does this person actually like me? Does this person actually love me? And you carry that through silently your entire life. And then because you're wounded, because you're hurting, because you haven't worked through that stuff yet, you're not standing in your power, which means you are giving your power over to every person you interact with when you're allowing them to disrespect you. I'm hearing the first example that popped in my head is like work environments, where maybe you have overbearing bosses, or I'm hearing even colleagues, where you don't want to, maybe you don't like confrontation. So rather than rock the boat, you allow these people to put too much on you, or take on extra work, or talk down to you, or be disrespectful to you. Ooh, the energy's heavy. Sorry, guys. Family environments. Parents, siblings, kids even. You have that false notion that just because they're family, that means you should tolerate their disrespect. So you just take it. You let them talk to you in ways that make you feel disrespected, make you feel small. You know, it could be in the guise of joking, like I'm hearing like brothers joking with each other and making small jokes, and they think they're just being funny, but inside, you know, and this would be like, what I'm tapping into right now is a masculine energy, so this is probably someone watching. But, you know, your brothers tease you and say things to you, and you just go along with it. But deep down inside, it hurts, and you're tired of it. And maybe they've been doing it for so long, and you're just sick and tired of it. But because you've given them the power to keep belittling you, you don't feel strong enough to stand up to them. Women, you're in a relationship with a man, or situationship, and I've been there, done that, where you, in your heart, want to be treated correctly, properly. You want a real relationship. You want a man who's going to be loyal, who's going to treat you with respect, with reciprocity. You want a man who's going to be a gentleman, who would never dream of hurting you, who's not afraid to apologize when they're wrong, who's mature, emotionally mature, who's, you know, who is a provider and a protector. You want all these things, but you get yourself into a relationship with someone who's falling short on that stuff, and you accept it because there's something inside of you saying, it's probably the best I'm going to get, or he's okay, I mean, he does this and this and this, I don't want to lose him. Or for some of you, you're in relationships where someone is abusive. Maybe they play mind games. Maybe they're verbally abusive. Maybe they say horrible, mean things to you to make you feel this big, because they need to have that power and control over you. Maybe they're physically abusive, but you don't feel you have the power in you to stand up to them. So you allow it to keep happening. And every day that goes by, you feel less and less you, and more like an empty vessel walking around this planet with no drive, no purpose, no point. Healing is so important. See, there was something in Cassie. There was something in her that said, I know this is going to be hard. I know that if I bring this out to the public, I'm going to be under a target. There may be people who don't believe me, call me a liar, call me a gold digger. I'm sure she went through this. I'm sure she had to run through this in her mind before she ever came out publicly. But something in her snapped. Something in her said, I'm not taking this shit no more. I deserve better than this. I deserve respect. And in that moment, she took her power back. It might have been a quiet moment. Maybe no one was around in that moment. It was a moment of reconciling for her, because she finally remembered who she is. Divine. A divine being, that no matter how flawed she is, no matter how much trauma she's been through, no matter how much hurt and pain she still has in her heart, doesn't mean that she still isn't deserving of the basic love and respect that we all deserve. And when that flips on in you as a person, that's when you take your power back. Because the people over you that have been using that power and control over you were counting on you not remembering who you are. They need you to think that you are beneath them. They need you to think that you are powerless. They need you to believe that they are bigger than you, more powerful than you. Because their control is an illusion, and they know it. But they don't want you to know that. So Cassie took back her power. And not only did she take back her power, but she said, you know what? I'm not going to let him do this to anyone else. And she did something very brave. And she came forward and told her story. And there are a million Cassies out there every day fighting for their life. Broken inside. Wounded feminine energy. Wounded masculine energy because some man who had the job of protecting her took that masculine energy of power and used it in a way to harm rather than uplift. And it's wounded people that do that. It's a wounded man who does that. It's a broken man who does that. We're not even getting into the spiritual aspect of all this. We're just talking about the psychological stuff. Imagine a world where men and women become self-aware. Where men and women understand what the masculine and feminine energy is, what that purpose is within them, because everyone has both energies. Typically speaking, if you're a woman, you're going to operate more from your feminine energy. But we have both energies and we use it at different times for different things. The important part is that it's healed and balanced. Imagine a world where people are healed and balanced. Where women aren't playing games with men. You know, I see all these channels on YouTube. And there's channels for men and there's channels for women. And the women are bashing the men. And the men are bashing the women. And when I go to those channels, all I see is a bunch of really wounded, hurting people playing the victim. Yet nobody there is taking accountability for their own stuff. Nobody there is working on their healing. Nobody there is showing compassion and empathy and understanding for the opposite side, you know? It's just a bunch of victim blaming. Or victimhood and blame shifting. Oh, my words aren't with me today. Again, imagine a world where people are healed. How our thoughts would be different. How we talk to people would be different. How we act with people and in the world would be different. This is why healing is so important. So I'm very encouraged to see this story being made public, this PDiddy stuff, because even though his story, it speaks more to the atrocities and evil, vile shit that goes on in the entertainment industry under the guise of having money and power and fame. This is why I stopped worshiping celebrities many years ago. Once I realized what was really going on, I took them off that pedestal. And I'm glad that it's being exposed for people to see the truth, that wealth and power and fame, it's all ego-driven. It doesn't make you happy. It doesn't make you a better person. And in fact, it oftentimes corrupts people. I've seen a lot of decent people that start out in the industry get ripped apart mentally, fall into addiction, fall into doing things that they probably would have never done, and just really throwing their lives away. Some of them die from that stuff. They never heal. And it's not the entertainment industry, it's what it's feeding, which is the ego. That's why you see some celebrities that are more in their healed energy, they stay out of the public, they mind their own business. Yeah, they're out there doing their movies and their shows and all that, but you won't hear about them in the magazines. You won't hear about them on the TMZ and all that stuff, because they keep low and they mind their own business. They protect their families. They're there to do a job, and they enjoy their job, and yeah, okay, I'm famous, but they don't play into it. They avoid all that because they understand. They understand what's going on in the world. So yeah, I just wanted to do a little reflecting on the PDiddy case, because from more of the perspective of Cassie, the one that's been testifying and sharing her stories about what was going on, and understanding that it's time for people to start taking their power back. Yes, in this case we're talking about women. But men taking their power back, that means healing. That means getting out of your ego and learning how to lead from a place of love. Learn how to love yourself and learn how to respect women. And women, the same thing. Learn how to love your respect. Know how to have healthy boundaries. Know how to protect yourself. You don't need to be going and having sex on your first dates. What are you telling the man? That's the kind of culture we've created. Men go for what they see in looks. Looks fade. Looks don't constitute wifey material. Just because a lady looks nice doesn't mean she's got the qualities, the morals, and the characteristics of being a good wife. If that's what you want eventually is a wife. And the same thing for women. There's a type of relationship you have in mind, but you're just looking for the men with the money, the nice cars. That's not going to guarantee you a good man. And I'm not saying those things aren't important. I'm saying what we should really be focusing on is what's inside of a person. What is their heart? How do they treat people? How do they treat themselves? Do they move from love, or do they move from ego? Are they healing? Are they self-aware? These are things, ultimately, they're going to create lasting bonds and connections, more so than the superficial stuff that everyone focuses on. Now, that doesn't mean attraction isn't important, right? You obviously want to have a physical attraction to your partner. I'm not saying you have to go date someone you're not physically attracted to. I'm just saying don't count out some people based on certain things. That's what I'm saying, right? But yeah, I didn't really have a script for this, obviously. I never do. I was very touched by the testimony, and I felt it was important to share this because I feel like there are so many people in the world that are going through similar situations, but they don't have a voice. They're not rich and famous and on TV sharing their stories. They're quietly going through this, some of them with no help, no support, no one to believe them. And I'm here to say, somebody believes you, and someone believes in you, and that's me. So if you're in a situation where you feel your power has been taken away from you, maybe it's time to take your power back. Maybe it's time, because you deserve to be loved and respected. And the first person to give that to you is going to be yourself. And that's, you're going to treat other people how to treat you. You're going to teach other people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. Does that make sense? Let me say it again. You're going to teach other people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. Okay? All right, well, I'll have to keep following up on that P. Diddy case little by little. I can't do too much at a time because I get real riled up. I'm very sensitive to this stuff. So anyways, I'd be curious your thoughts. Share them in the comments. I'd really like to know what everyone thinks about all this stuff, okay? I hope you all have a wonderful day. Namaste.